guys, welcome to the Wealthy Podcast. My name is Hannah.
And this is Derek.
Hey, welcome you guys. So I think this is episode 11.
Yep.
Holy cow, double digits officially. So thanks you guys for sticking with us, listening in to every episode. Or if this is your first episode with us, welcome. We are a podcast that is educational and inspirational with the health and wellness, and then also the finance and money industries. Derek specializes in the finance and the money portion, and I, Hannah, specialize in the fitness and wellness.
We have a dog.
You guys, we have a dog.
Come here, Bubba.
If you're a longtime listener of our 10 previous episodes, you know this. Chesty is a 60-pound little chicken nugget of a bulldog, and we're in the process of moving, you guys. Surprise. We found a house. We bought a house and we're moving. So he likes to stampede through the cardboard boxes that are empty.
Yeah, it's fun.
So if you hear any weird noises and random bursts of laughter, that's probably what we're laughing at during this episode. Next week, we will be in our new digs and all set up and super excited to share with you. So thanks for tuning in. Derek, what's episode 11 all about?
So today we're going to be talking about beginners. Beginners and being a beginner. What does it mean to begin something, to start something? I have a couple of really specific examples though that I think are really fun and funny that people may not always be aware of it, but as soon as we talk about it, you're going to say, "Oh my gosh, yes, I know these people in my life."
Or I've been that person.
Right. But you'll see.
Okay. I'm excited. Okay.
So in case you guys don't know, a lot of times I will have my own little show notes that Hannah doesn't always know what I'm planning for her. So it's fun to get some reactions out of her.
I just prefer spontaneity in this podcast.
And
world.
I'm a prepper. So yeah, it's fun.
I'm usually a prepper, but then I just get stuck. But yeah, Anyways, Derek, feel free to proceed.
Okay, so just starting off, though, we wanted to go over that if you are a beginner in something, it's not a bad thing. I think sometimes when we undertake something, or if you are in an area or a group of people that are more experienced, the beginner, the new guy, is always the one that gets razzed, right? Is always the one that kind of gets the you don't know kid, you're the new kid on the block. And I think sometimes you get a bad rap if you're the beginner, right? And I think as well, there are a lot of times in life where when you do undertake something, you all face that weird initial opposition that the people who supported you vocalizing your beginnings are now the ones challenging your actual action taking beginnings. Have you seen that? It's kind of weird.
Oh, absolutely. It's really, it's interesting that it's like, here I put the action to actually doing the thing I was telling you to do.
Yeah.
And now just because I'm not at an expert level right off the bat, you're making fun of me for starting out from the beginning where everyone naturally would start out. I think another interesting beginner situation is when, and I think we've for sure all been here, but when we show up to something like that's in a group setting and we assume we're the only person that's the beginner. So it's really interesting that you kind of walk into it. And for me, I see this a lot in my fitness classes where I know who's a beginner and who's not just based off of my class list. There are certain little icons by people's names. Mm-hmm. And with just starting yoga at Rebel House, a lot of new people are coming to the gym to try classes. A lot of people are new to yoga, but they've been to Rebel House before doing the indoor cycling and the boxing in the riot room.
Yeah.
But everyone just assumes that they're the only one and they'll walk out and be like, "Oh my gosh, I sucked. That was awful." And it's like, no, first off, you don't suck. Just because you're a beginner doesn't mean you automatically suck. Right. But then also you weren't the only new person. You weren't the only beginner. And it's really interesting how there are different types of beginners where someone can use they almost tell you that they're a beginner after the fact. And it's like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you're a beginner. You are so good." And you just kind of owned it. Mm-hmm. And you let that kind of boo you and be like, "Well, it can't get any worse than me. I'm base level, so I can only get better from here."
Right.
And then that's one way of being a beginner. But then other people in especially fitness classes, they kind of just skate by and they're like, well, I'm not going to listen. I'm not going to participate. I'm not going to challenge myself because I'm a beginner.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of use that as a crutch the whole class. And then they use that as an excuse as they're walking out of class when it's like, sorry, it was my first class. And it's like, well, I know it was your first class, but like.
Right. And
you know?
I've seen this at work as well. I can use myself as an example. When I first started doing what I'm doing now, I was the beginner, right? And it was interesting because I went through all stage of this, and it was really weird. So this is how it worked. A lot of new teams came into play at work, right? And so I started working with this new team, you know, new manager above me, new more experienced with me, and other people kind of on the same level as me. We were all new, but my office didn't really get moved by them until they were already established. So I came in thinking everyone else was experienced, but they were all brand new. But I just didn't know that because they just physically got there before me. So for the first little bit of work, you know, I'm treating everyone around me like they're the experts. And I think it was just kind of weird me being the new guy, but then at the same time, I don't know. It was just a weird dynamic because I was treating like them the experts, but they're brand new. And so some of them would be like, no, dude, I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know what you're talking about because they're new. And then there's the other people that will roll with it. Just like you were saying, like they're new, but they'll roll with the fact that people think they're doing well. But myself being new is interesting because the whole dynamic kind of flipped. So the whole dynamic kind of flipped just because I was actually sitting with and next to and working with someone that was more experienced than myself, and being next to that person and near that person, I got to always see work that was at a higher level than mine, more complicated and maybe a higher tier and more in depth than the projects I was currently working at. And so being able to see that and exposing myself to it, I quickly was able to accelerate my growth, accelerate my own learning, and really just push forward past the people around me who were new as well, who had, like I said, we were all new at the same time. And although we were all new at the same time, because I accepted that I was new and really kind of leached and latched onto this more experienced person and really tried to just absorb everything that they knew and was just constantly drilling them with questions. And when other people had questions, I would jump in with them, and being able to just, I am new. I know I'm new, so I need to be a sponge. That put me years ahead of where others may be who have the opposite attitude of, well, I'm new. I'm just going to take it at my pace. I'm going to learn how I want to learn. And they really box themselves in. So it's kind of weird, but interesting. And I think we need to make sure, what type of new person am I being? Am I being the one that is, yeah, I'm new. I have no idea what's going on. Teach me everything. And then you'll learn everything, instead of being the, well, I'm new and I don't really want people to know I'm new and I don't want to show them I don't know. So I'm just going to try to sneak little bits of info and learning where I can, where people aren't going to realize I'm learning. You know, that's only going to stunt your own growth. And, you know, one thing I've learned as well, I've been in a lot of places in my life where I am the least experienced person. And I've liked it. At first it's very intimidating a lot of the times, because you are the least knowledgeable kid on the block. You know less than anybody else. You've been doing less than them. And at first it's just like, wow, like I just want to be quiet. I don't want to stand out at all. But at the same time, I very quickly learned that if someone came to me and started talking to me, it served me so much better to just say, hey, like I have no idea what you're talking about right now. But tell me, like, what is that? Because all of us have our BS detectors, right? Everyone can tell when someone else they're talking to is pretending to, oh yeah, I totally know. Oh yeah, the this and the that. Oh yeah, I know all about that. And it's like, do you? Because my BS detector is going off and I feel like you're full of it. Nobody likes that person, but everyone loves the person that says, whoa, I don't know about that, but you really do know about that. Tell me. And then because that person, they obviously want to tell you. They obviously are experiencing things to share. And now they have someone that's eager to learn. So Be the one that's eager to learn. Don't be the person that tries to pretend like you're not a beginner. And that actually rolls right into my little story. I think that's funny, my example. But did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, that was awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to just keep going back and forth on beginners today.
Okay, cool. So have you ever heard of the Dunning-Kruger effect?
I'm sure I will have heard of it, but I don't know it by name.
Okay. So to put it simply, because if you Google it, it's psychology. So everyone has to use the biggest words they can possibly find. But
did you ever take a psych class?
No, I never have. I've always wanted to though, because I love it.
It's amazing, but so awful all at the same time. I
can understand that.
Yeah.
So, but the Dunning-Kruger effect, if you haven't ever heard of it, it basically says, and it's based off studies that show that the people who are extremely incompetent are the ones that have the most confidence. So it's I am so incompetent that I am unaware of my incompetence and I think I'm the expert, right?
Totally.
So if you imagine in your mind, guys, a graph, right? Like a line graph. And there's a line that goes from left to right, just normal like we've seen in school. So in the far bottom left corner is where the line begins and it pretty much shoots straight up. Okay. So on the far left, this is your incompetence. This is your 0. I have no knowledge, right? The far left, I have no knowledge. I don't know anything. And going vertically up and down is your confidence level. So the line shoots straight up. And these are those people that I know absolutely nothing to the point that I don't even know I know nothing.
Yeah.
And because I don't know what I don't know, I have all the confidence in the world and I think I know everything because I can't even be aware of what I don't know.
It can be such a good thing, but then a bad thing too. Like I love half of this like theory, like half of this. Yeah.
So yeah, it is interesting. There's a lot of ways that can play into it, but when you flesh it out, you say, oh wait, maybe I don't want to be that person.
Yeah.
Because what happens is after it's called the peak of Mount Stupidity. Because you're so dumb that you have all the confidence, like you don't even know, like you're just so dumb. So immediately the line going a little bit right, it falls straight back down and back down to 0 basically. And this is called the Valley of Despair because it's the realization that I don't know anything.
Yeah.
And this is where a lot of people get stuck, I think. They may not be on Mount Stupidity, but they haven't undertaken anything yet. And so they decide, all right, I'm going to start this. I'm going to become a person that does this. And then they have that quick peak where they think, oh, I've seen other people do it. It looks easy. I could totally do that. And then boom, they fall right back into the valley, or not back, but they fall into the Valley of Despair of, oh my gosh, this is so much bigger than I ever thought it was.
And I'm picturing on Friends, which you've never watched Friends, even though I've tried.
What are you talking about? I'm an expert.
No, you're not. You don't
Ross?
even know.
I'm such a Ross.
No, you don't want to be a Ross.
I'm not a.
You don't want to be a Ross. He's whiny.
Oh.
No, so I'm picturing Joey Tribbiani in that episode where he realizes that all of his friends, including Rachel and Phoebe, who are kind of like the other less intelligent people of the group, and they're in their own respects, that everyone. So out of this, there are 6 friends. He is one of 6.
Oh my gosh.
Just in case someone hasn't seen it, like you.
I know it. Everyone knows what it is, though.
I know, but so everyone but Joey is like intelligent and can talk about the news and going on with current events and everything. So he has an encyclopedia salesman come to his door and he's like, I need to get all of them so I can keep up with my friends, but he can actually only afford one. So he gets like the V one because that's the one
that's
the
all
salesman
you can talk about is stuff.
So he's like trying to refer to all these.
But did you guys know that Venus is the...
Do you want to talk about volcanoes? Do you want to talk about... Yeah.
That's funny.
But I think that was his like Valley of Despair where he was realized, like, I know nothing about what these people are talking about.
Okay.
Yeah,
there you go.
Sorry.
No. So, right. So we hit the Valley of Despair, and that's where a lot of people stop. It's at first, it's the first gut check when you undertake something new and you realize how much of a beginner you are and see how big something really is. And it's definitely the most intimidating, but it's definitely not the place to stop. This is the place to say, okay, wow, cool. Yeah, I don't know anything, but I need to find someone that does and really vet all my sources, because when you're a beginner, guys, you need to set yourself up for success. And we'll talk about that a little bit here in a sec once we finish this Dunning-Kruger thing. I have a good example of how being a beginner, you can still shoot yourself in the foot and kind of cripple yourself later when you're going from kind of that intermediate and trying to become an expert. So we move out of the valley of despair, and the line, it starts to just slowly but steadily climb, like looks very sustainable, normal climb. This is called the slope of enlightenment. It's just learning, it's growth, it's progress. This is where I would say most of us are somewhere on this slope of enlightenment.
Wait, so you're telling me that everyone can be in this Kruger, what was it?
Dunning-Kruger
scale? I thought it was just for stupid people.
No.
Okay.
So everybody,
there's
the peak is Mount Stupidity. There's a group that hangs out on top of that.
Okay. So it's different degrees of being a beginner or like a learning process.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Right. Yeah. It's basically, think of it as you go from a absolutely know nothing to a true expert, a real bona fide. So,
but some people can stay in one place.
Exactly. Oh yeah. And that's what's all up to us. Right.
Okay. Yeah.
And then you go and you listen to the Wealthy Podcast and you move out of the valley of despair and you become an expert.
Amazing.
Whoa. So you're on the slope of enlightenment. And I think this is where most people land, is you're somewhere on this slope, whether you are just coming out of the valley of despair and you said, screw it, I'm going to learn anyways. I'm going to go and become an expert. Or you are in the middle and you're just, okay, learning, doing my thing. And you're trying to work on patience because it's going to take longer than you think. Or you are getting closer to the top where you're able to look back at all the people coming up behind you, and thinking, wow, okay, look how far I've come, but I've still got a good ways to go. But man, I kind of know a little bit.
Why is it the case that good things that are sustainable and actually last and serve you well take longer than you think? Isn't that crazy how that always seems to be a common thing?
Weird how time is just, yeah.
Weird. Interesting.
And then last, guys, is just the, I forget what it's called. It's just the peak. It's the top. Eventually, when you become an expert, you become the same level of confidence as the people that know nothing, right? So think of that. You're on the slope, so you're gaining knowledge as you move to the right, but you're also gaining confidence as you move vertically as well. So eventually you become an expert that actually does have the knowledge, but now you have the knowledge to back up your confidence. You're not the know-nothings hanging out on Mount Stupidity. Since
we don't know what it's called, I think we should just call it Nirvana.
Okay.
Just for now.
All right.
Cool. That's awesome, though. It sounds familiar, but like having you describe it that way, it's more user-friendly.
Yeah. And there's two examples, real life examples, studies, and one thing that actually happened that illustrate the point. So the first was this guy. There was a man, I don't know his name. I wouldn't want to say his name anyways, because I feel like that's kind of not cool, because he didn't do the smartest thing. He's definitely on the mount with high confidence, but no knowledge. So he attempted to rob banks by covering his face in lemon juice, because lemon juice makes invisible ink. So if I cover my face in lemon juice, my face will be invisible to the cameras.
Wait, you're kidding me.
No, this is a real thing. This happened.
How recently?
I don't know. 10 years, 20 years, maybe something like that.
Did you hear about the guy that tried to rob banks using one of those electric scooters that are around town?
Oh my gosh, no.
And he it was fairly smart because they're easy to get, but his user name and phone number and address and billing
he had to
information.
Rent it.
Yeah, it was all there for the police to get.
Smart guy.
But anyways, so lemon juice.
So he covered his face in lemon juice thinking to make him invisible.
Okay, so did it work?
No, obviously not. It's lemon juice.
I mean, I don't know.
So that's that point, though, is he thinks he knows everything, and I'm so smart, I'm going to outsmart the cameras and stuff.
No, he just watched National Treasure with freaking Nicolas Cage and thinks he can do crap. Oh, man.
So what this shows us, though, is that, and part of the Dunning-Kruger effect is that those who may have a lesser ability or lesser intelligence or competence typically tend to overestimate their true ability and overestimate what they're able to do. Whereas those that are competent and do have that to back it up, they typically underestimate. And it's one of those things that could be a slippery slope where it's good to be humble and you don't want to be the person that thinks you know everything, but at the same time, you don't want to downplay yourself and to the point of thinking, I don't know anything, when you really do. So how they prove this is that they actually had a wide spectrum of people take just a test, like a basic math, basic writing, just normal run of the mill kind of test that anyone should be able to just do to measure competency. And when it was done, they asked the people, okay, tell us what you think you scored as they left. And so they took everyone's scores, and that's what showed was that those that received the lowest, like failures of scores, all think they actually scored in the 80s, 90s, and 100s. And those that scored in the 80s, 90s, 100s downplayed themselves, but just not to as much of a degree. So if you scored an 80, you thought, I probably scored like a 70. Scored a 90, maybe high 70s, low 80s, that kind of a thing. So it's just interesting. And I think we all see those people that it's like, they think they're so smart. Like, how does this person not know? You know what I mean? Like, we have those moments, and it's just, that's what I think. It's like, you just must live on Mount Stupidity, where you just have so much confidence. You think you know everything, but you actually know so little. You're not even aware of what you don't know.
Well, like, do you think anyone would ever tell them that they were wrong? Like, or what would ever happen? Like, I think they would just ignore it and
exactly.
not
That's
even hear
the
it
point.
until they hit the pit of despair or whatever it's called, which makes me think of Princess Bride
Valley of Despair.
Or
must go through the Valley of Despair.
Or Monty Python. But yeah, like, it's just, and I feel like once you hit that place, like, all those voices and all those conversations with people where it's like, you're stupid, right? Like, all that comes flooding through.
Jeez.
And it's just like this awful montage in your brain playing back.
Yeah, I think the movement from the peak to the valley, it really, to me, it can come as one of those shocks where we're talking about, with the realization of, I'm so dumb, everyone was right. But I think more often what keeps us on that is our pride, is that people don't want to accept that maybe I don't know everything.
Totally.
And so they have to stay on the mountain. They almost cling for it for dear life, because as long as they're up there, like you said, most people know, like, most people are polite. We're not going to call you out on your BS and say, no, that's totally wrong. You have no idea what you're talking about. That's just rude. Most of us are not going to do that. And so you stay up there with your pride thinking, well, as long as I can just BS and pretend that I know, then I know, right? So yeah, it's this weird thing, but it's so good. To me, it's a good fall. It's something that's good for you.
It is. I mean, it doesn't
you need
feel
to
good while
fall.
you do it.
No, of course not. But you can't reach the slope of enlightenment and eventually mastery over whatever you're trying to do if you never go through the valley. Like, you have to. And
could it be at different degrees too? Like, I almost picture this whole scale being like maybe subjective. So like, maybe I feel like I know something, like maybe I'm just not Mount Stupid for my whole entire life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just this one thing I feel like I know a ton about,
totally.
like badminton. I feel like I'm an expert at badminton. Maybe I haven't played in the last 9 years.
What's the little thing called?
It is called a shuttlecock.
Okay. That was quick.
Thank you.
Maybe you know more than I think.
I'm pretty impressive.
Wow.
But thank you. But so it could just be subjective, like, to one specific thing where maybe I don't know anything about badminton after all, but I think I do. My ego and pride are going to keep me on, like, climbing the mountain of despair or the mountain of stupidity rather.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to meet the world champion badminton expert or coach, better so, and just come crashing down to the valley. But then growing and being a beginner, I think this is interesting too, because you can be a beginner almost at every stage though. It doesn't have to just be at the bottom of the mountain. It doesn't have to just be at the bottom of the pit of despair. It can be, you can choose to be a beginner as you go, like in your learning process. Like, while you keep growing and learning, you don't have to, like, I guess.
I think I get what you're saying. I think you're leaning more towards the emotional side of it, of having a beginner's mentality, of being willing to learn and
yeah,
right.
Yes.
Whereas this is more hard, almost
hard
numbers of, confidence versus what you actually factually know.
These numbers create you at beginner. These numbers put you at intermediate. These are advanced or expert. But, right. I mean,
no,
but it's kind of the case where you don't have to be, Mount Stupidity.
You don't have to climb Mount Everest of Mount Stupidity, right? That's what you're saying, is it could be a little molehill that you, well, maybe I don't know. Okay, now it's time to learn. Let's be a beginner. Yeah.
Or yes, that, or it could just be one thing that you really don't know and you just have to master that one thing.
Oh yeah, for sure. It doesn't have to be your whole life that you're just this general idiot.
I mean, but that's kind of how it sounded. And I mean,
well, I think that's just how this example is. And I think that a lot of times that's what you find, right? But no, of course I think that the specific situation, those are the times when it is more pride rather than just a general incompetence. It's I don't want to admit I don't know everything about this topic, maybe that we're talking about.
So I've never given myself a chance to learn about
exactly
it. Yeah,
right.
That makes sense.
Right. Well, and one thing I was going to say though is, so in my line of work, I also have the opportunity to work alongside some very, very high level people in the financial industry, right? They've been mentors to me, and they're experts. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They're experts. They've been doing it for years and years and years. They know what they're talking about. And they will be the first person to say, yeah, I have no idea. I have no idea what I'm doing. Or, yeah, no, I learned something new you know what I mean? I think that that's part of becoming a true expert, is that you are also a lifelong beginner and a lifelong learner. And you learn that there is always more to learn.
Yeah, I think that's a really strong, like, that's where you have to be mentally and emotionally in this whole beginning aspect of, like, having a beginner's attitude is not a bad thing. And especially if you're the type of beginner who wants to be the sponge, who wants to learn and get better. If you're going to be the beginner forever of just being like, I don't know, so I'm not going to do anything, then just enjoy Mount Stupidity. Yeah. Stupid head.
Just make your camp more comfortable.
Yeah. Hopefully you get like an inflatable mattress or something.
Oh, there you go.
Maybe like a sun-powered torch thing or a hammock or
torch thing.
Yeah. Good little stove. So what else about beginners, Derek? Where do you see, what even is a beginner in the finance world? Like, does it mean you have no money, or does it mean you, like, what is a beginner?
It could be anything. I think, like we were just talking about, it can be that you are a beginner with knowledge or a beginner with materials, right? Like I deal with people that are millionaires and have no idea what they're doing. Right? That's a fun conversation. They often are the people that think they know. Or I deal with people that every which way combination, right? Or I'll deal with people that it's interesting. I'll deal with younger people that maybe inherit or are gifted, $50,000, $100,000, and I work with them as well. So they have the materials, but they don't have the experience. Whereas I'll deal with the older people that have no money, and they have a lot of experience maybe, but they don't have the resources. So it could be either, or you could be both. You could, hey, like we talked about just barely, it could be, I have, I don't know, $500,000 I just inherited. I know a little bit of things. I run my own business, but I don't really know investing, maybe, things like that. So it could be a lot of different things, I think. It's just depends on your situation. But one thing I wanted to say though is that, like, don't try to be the instant expert. Like, there is no instant expert, and that's part of that whole slope of enlightenment thing. And I think you could add a third scale to that whole Dunning-Kruger chart we were talking about of time, right? Like we talked about, there's time, and so many people, especially our age and our days, we're so used to the instant world. It's the press a button, you get 2-day delivery. Instant microwave food, everything. But you don't want to do that to yourself. And you don't want to cut yourself short, because if you take those shortcuts, you're skipping out on that knowledge and experience you're going to gain. You're not instant mashed potatoes, you're real potatoes. So give yourself time to cook and become what you're meant to be. Don't just shortchange yourself, because does anyone really like instant mashed potatoes?
Absolutely not.
No, it's horrible.
I'm very passionate of how much I do not like instant mashed potatoes.
Because they're fake and they're gross. And as soon as you see them and especially taste them, this isn't it. This is not even close to the real deal. But when you have the real deal, obviously it's like, yes, this is. So be
this
that
has
type of a learner. 4
sticks of butter in it, and I can taste the love that it took to make these. Absolutely.
Exactly. But what else I was thinking about talking about with beginners is that beginners are also beggars. That you don't really get to choose and make demands, and you don't have a lot of control as a beginner. You get to control your own attitudes, your own perspectives, and things like that. But let's say you're a beginner at a job in an industry you don't know. You don't get to walk in and make demands about salary and how hard you need to work and what projects you work on and, things like that. Like, you're a beginner. You just need to learn the ropes. And it's kind of, it's not, and it's more than putting in time, because I see people every day that have put in the time and they've gone nowhere. And they're just sitting there like tapping their watch. Like, I should be so much further ahead by now. I deserve this. I'm owed this. I've been with this company so many years, and it's okay, cool. But what have you done in that time? Have you just maintained this attitude of making demands the whole time? Like, no, you need to go through the period of being someone that's learning, being someone that needs a mentor, needs experience, needs to make mistakes, and yeah, just don't worry about trying to be the high level person yet. Enjoy being a beginner, that's one thing I think people forget. Being a beginner
rocks.
You get to make the mistakes and it's okay.
Yeah. Have you heard beginner's luck?
Right. And then if you
beginners at
you get the free,
handicap of being a beginner. Like, you get to just be and learn and make mistakes and laugh it off. And you can't get away with that if you're an expert in something most often. Right.
And I see that, especially in the military, where you get new guys into the unit and you get the people that are scared out of their mind, right? Those are the great beginners, because we get to teach them and take them under our wing. And then you get the guys that come out of their schools or whatever, and they think they know everything.
Stupidity mountain.
And what's hard though is that whether they know or they don't know, they instantly gain this reputation of I'm unteachable. I don't want to learn. I think I know everything. You know what I mean? It's just a bad rap to get. And then what happens is, because they have a reputation of being unteachable or not wanting to learn, no one wants to teach you. And if no one wants to teach you, you're not going to get taught. You're not going to learn. And I've seen this with guys in my unit who came into the unit with that attitude of, I know everything already. I don't need your help. And now, years later, we look at them and say, yeah, you're getting passed up by your peers who came in scared, because all that time we were teaching them and guiding them and being by their side, and we'll be the experts that show them.
They needed to be like mommied or babied, but they just they
needed to learn is all.
But they were willing to learn.
Right, exactly.
Is that the other people shot themselves in the foot right from the beginning because they weren't teachable. That's one of the biggest lessons I've learned, and especially in my growing up years, is the importance of being teachable in so many different aspects, from playing sports and stuff. I'm an only child. I can't remember how long of a span it was that my answer to literally everything was, yeah, I know. I was that kid. And
I know.
I remember being called out by a handful of people. I can't remember how close they were to me. And they're like, do you really know though? And I was like, no.
Yeah.
But so then,
welcome to the valley.
Yeah. But then, in sports, coaches wouldn't want to work with you, and they would make your life really hard. And you would, instead of being working on fundamentals and the important things you knew you needed to work on. And for me, my sport was tennis growing up. So I wouldn't be playing the skill or strategy game that I guess I shouldn't be putting this. So people who weren't teachable, I saw that they were given running drills to do around the court, as opposed to hitting certain drills or doing other things, that are way more fun than just running around.
Yeah, because you got to learn the tech, because the coach can see that okay, well, if you're going to learn, you're going to go so much further than the person that doesn't want to learn.
Exactly. And I think in this situation, in coaching, coach and athlete, or coach and mentoree situation. And then the other one you were mentioning before is that you almost have to get to that point of tired and so severely humbled that it's just you have to come crawling back and be like, my ego's not here anymore. My pride does not live here anymore. I need your help.
Yeah.
And I recognize that I was kind of a snot before, and I'm here to make things right. I'm here to learn now. And what the scary thing is the person who you're coming to can still say no.
Oh yeah, we have someone that's yeah. I could name names.
Yeah, don't.
but now they're on the crap list with you know what I mean. But what I was gonna say is what happens with this too as well is that eventually the window of beginnerhood closes, and now it's been long enough that you should know better.
Yeah,
and your peers are now at least competent and can be on their own and do things, and they don't make the silly dumb mistakes that you're making because you didn't want to listen because you thought you knew on such a higher level. So
can I call you out really quick?
Sure.
You sound like such a dad right now. Like, and the look you're giving me while you're talking about it.
That's what it's
you
like.
You look
though,
like a dad. You sound like a dad. No, but I mean, can you remember when you were kind of a smart ass teenager? And
still am.
You still are a little bit in many ways. But yeah, when I remember, I mean, and my parents are lovely, lovely individuals. They're amazing.
Yeah,
they also listen to this podcast. So shout out to my awesome, amazing parents who listen to this podcast.
Hi, Mom.
But I remember being told, it's just like, no, your grace period of, your beginnership is over. Like, you have made that mistake way too many times.
You know better than this.
Yeah. And I hated hearing those words. You know better. It's like, you're right, I do, but I'm still going to slam my door. And that's going to result in you taking it off its hinges and me not having a door for a month.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I was not a bad kid, but I did have a couple challenging moments for my parents.
I think we all did.
I mean, how are they going to be the best parents they can be if they were given this absolutely 100% perfect child? I had to kind of test them a little bit as their parenting skills.
Mm-hmm. It's easy to say now. Sure, back then you weren't thinking, oh, I'm helping my parents.
No, I'm saying that now just so they don't hate me.
Okay.
As I remind them of the things I've done.
So let's move into more specifics. Let's say fitness. If you're a beginner in fitness, Hannah, what have you seen that hurts people the most and helps people the most if they're beginners?
Well, I mean, I said a little bit of this at the beginning, but I think there are a lot of different beginning types in fitness. You know, you could be beginning one certain thing, but kind of have a base knowledge of other things in fitness. Like, let's say you lift weights on your own at the gym, but this is your first time going to a CrossFit class or a boot camp class or whatever, like functional training, literally whatever it is, just trying something new in a different setting.
Yeah.
That's beginner. You could be trying something absolutely, completely 100% new from scratch. Like you haven't ever tried anything, or it's been a long time. There are a lot of different beginner situations in fitness and wellness. And I think it's very scary. I think the fitness industry and the health industry, it's hard because a lot of people have different goals and they have different motivations behind what they're doing. It's not just always self-motivated and I'm just trying to be the best version of myself I can be. So it's driven by maybe sometimes other people or I don't know, maybe like performance motivation or other people motivating you or maybe like more negative situations. I think those are the people that struggle with being a beginner because they have harder to fall. Like they can fall farther because it's not just them that they're working with. They're trying to rise to the expectations that they've set for themselves on someone else. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So what would you tell them? How would you help them? What would you do for them?
I would just try to make whatever space they were stepping into as comfortable as they can. And that's all I can do as a fitness professional is one, offer modification, like in a workout setting, in a group fitness setting or personal training, which I've experienced beginners on every aspect in all of the areas I've taught or trained. And the only thing that I feel comfortable doing for them right off the bat until I decide what type of beginner they are is just making it a comfortable space for them. helping them with ability, comfortability, injury, modifications, everything, making it comfortable for them, making sure that they're if it's like a group fitness class, I always introduce a new person to like a veteran person who knows the workout, who,
Well, you've done that for me.
Yeah.
When I go to, so I'm not a big group fitness guy, but I'll go to Hannah's classes once in a blue moon. I'm not going to play it up. I go rarely, but when I do, I appreciate Hannah will usually pair me either with her mom who goes to them all the time, or even, someone that does go all the time, just like she says. And even though I am very Mr. Confident and I work out every day and I go to the gym, going to her classes, especially like the boxing and stuff, that is very different. I love knowing that I have someone there that like, one, I don't need to worry about watching them. Two, they've been a beginner. They know what it's like. They're going to do the thing. And I can kind of watch them as well. I can see what they're doing and play off of that a little bit. So I love that you do that.
Yeah. So, I mean, as an instructor, that there's really not much I can do until I understand who they are, what kind of beginner they're going to be. For me, I am just not the type of personality who really wants to help the people who act like they know it all, because they're often really, really stubborn and very, in my experiences, very rude in their stubbornness. And they're the ones that get very snippy. And they're like, I had someone the other day, not the other day, like a month and a half ago. And I can't even remember where it was, but I was specifically like the whole time trying to cue them on doing something correctly. And the way they were doing it, it wouldn't necessarily hurt them in this immediate class, but if they kept doing what they were doing and building a habit of it, they were going to get hurt.
Yeah.
And so I like turned off my mic, walked up to them and I was like, you need to do this. And they're like, no, I'm not doing that. And I was like, okay. So I like pretty much turned my back to them the whole class just because it's like, you're too much of a distraction for me. Like I'm so worried about you drifting off and drowning, then I'm forgetting everyone else who's trying to do their
everyone else is
best
going to drown while you're trying to save the one that wants to drown.
Exactly. So, but that being said, like I would love to give some advice to beginners as they step into a fitness class, if that's all right.
Yeah.
If we have time for that.
Yes.
Okay. So as beginners, I think there are a lot of fail and foolproof ways. Foolproof?
Mm-hmm.
I think it could be fail-proof though.
That still makes sense.
Still makes sense. It's almost like saying flush or flesh it out. I think it's flesh. Anyways, okay. Fail and foolproof ways to make sure you can show up and rock whatever you're doing. And I actually have a blog post about this too that I wrote a long time ago. So go reference that if you want to. healthxhannah.com. That's my blog. But first things first, I think if you're going to show up to a personal trainer, a group fitness class, or even just like you're going to meet with someone for your nutrition or whatever, you need to do some research before you go. Research the person, research like the consultation that you're going to, or the class you're going to, or the format of the training session. Just because that will give you confidence and that will keep you present as opposed to wondering what is coming next the whole time. So if you kind of know that the boxing class, it is 10 rounds, including warm up and cool down, you're alternating between boxing and a floor hit workout. Most people don't know that they're actually boxing and hitting a bag. So they're surprised when we give them gloves and they're like, oh my gosh, okay, I guess I'm hitting a bag. Or they forget about the floor workouts, that they are lifting weights and doing things other than just boxing. So being able to educate yourself and be fully informed as much as you can before you step into whatever space you are trying to, that's going to serve you well. Another thing you should do is be prepared. Show up with all the equipment you might need. If you are questioning something, just leave it in your car as you walk in, and then you have it just in case if you need to run out. Always have a water with you, towel, mat, whatever. Like your personal equipment is optional. Most places do rentals, so just keep that in mind. A really big thing that people don't often think about as they prepare is make sure you're wearing the proper clothing and the proper shoes for whatever you're doing. I have a personal training client. She is the best and so adorable. And luckily our personal training sessions, like, it doesn't limit her at all, but she'll show up in these cute Vince platform slip-on shoes. And they're so, like, luckily we're not doing like intense cardio. We're doing mostly weightlifting with her. So it's great. Like the flat soled shoe, you know, neutral arch is great for her.
Mm-hmm.
But if she were to show up and try to do any other class in those shoes, it wouldn't work out, which it's great. So, and then once you get there, introduce yourself to the instructor, make sure you disclose any injuries, and make sure you find yourself in the middle of the room where you have a vantage point of everyone. As beginners, it's really easy to want to tuck ourselves into the back corner, and then we can see everyone in front of us and we think that would be best for us and serve us best. That actually does the complete opposite, because one, you're making it harder for the instructor to be present with you and to keep track of you. So instead of having it be an easy thing that they're able to monitor you and help you just feel a little bit more comfortable, you are making it a challenge and they might forget about you, honestly, which really sucks being a customer and an instructor. Like, it sucks to be forgotten or to forget someone. But then also it actually gives you a better vantage point if you're in the middle of the room. Then that way you can see people all around you, and you're not only like, in case the workout changes in direction, then that way you have someone in 360 to be able to watch, and you're making it easier for the instructor to be connected to you and present. But yeah, I would love to hear any of your you, Derek, but then any listeners, your ways to feel comfortable as a beginner in fitness, and any stories that you'd love to share. I would absolutely love to hear them. It's really hard to be a beginner, and I totally appreciate everyone who still shows up despite being a beginner, and they show up ready to work and learn and be their best. So if that sounds like it's you, keep doing it. It's serving you well, and you are going to be light years beyond anybody who just has their ego getting in the way. And maybe they're just stagnant in thinking that they're an expert in something, or maybe they are an expert in something, but you are creating variety and excitement through your journey, which is great. And if that makes you happy, keep doing it.
Okay, cool. Good advice. I like it.
Do you have anything to add? I feel like
I would think just on the side of not group fitness, because I think there's a lot of people, like myself, like I'm not a group fitness person. So not a whole lot of that really pertains to me. I think it is awesome advice though. And I've been in situations, training courses and things where introducing myself to the instructor and just saying, hey, my name's Derek. Just want to let you know, I am 100% beginner. So if I seem slow or dumb, it's just that I literally have no idea what's going on right now, but I'm here. And they love it and they appreciate it. Cause like you said, then they can keep an eye on you, and it's not that you're a problem child. It's that, hey, I really want to learn this. And that's all an instructor ever wants, is someone that's eager to learn what they have to teach. So I love that. Like I said, I've done that myself. I would just say the biggest advice I could give, and this is just great life advice as well, is just to learn to laugh at yourself.
Yeah.
Like, it is huge. Introducing that aspect really helped change the mindset and energy of my workouts at the gym. Because I'm in this weird space where I used to go to the gym so much, as I still go as therapy, just my me time kind of a thing, but it's driven by a lot of negative emotions and feeling of inadequacies and stuff like that, where now it's shifting more into, I enjoy it. It makes me feel good. I like what I get out of it. I like where I'm going, and I like working on myself. Well, going from that shift, I'm working on learning to laugh at myself. And so, we've all do dumb things where you drop a weight on your foot. It hurts, and it hurts more because you feel like everyone in the entire room just saw that
and is going, ooh,
yeah, oh, bro,
you okay,
right,
bud?
yeah, oh. So,
and that's when you're just fighting back tears.
But the skill of learning to laugh at myself has helped me so many places other than at the gym too, but just everywhere where I can make a mistake. And even being more experienced, whether it's in the finance world where, yeah, I have some experience and I know some things, right? But being able to be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I thought that. Like, duh, cause I'm talking to someone, I'm working with someone, or just being able to, one, it makes me feel like I didn't fail, but I just learned and made a mistake. And now I know. And two, no one, you're not the pretender like we were talking about.
Yes.
No one's, and like, why do people do the whole like, ooh, like, cause they watch you try to like, oh, it's like, oh, they're trying to play it off. Like you almost slipped on the ice and they're going to play off like you're cool. I saw you slip up. You're not cool anymore. Well, if I was never trying to put on the face, like I'm the coolest kid on the block anyways, and I do slip on the ice, which has literally happened to me a couple times this winter, just stepping off the curb at the gym to go out to the car. I've slipped on ice and almost fallen. And I will laugh out loud at myself. And at first, the first couple of times, yeah, it was a little fake and forced. But for me, now it is a natural reaction to just laugh at myself when I do something silly because it is silly. And I made a dumb, silly mistake, but now I don't feel bad with it. And I'm not laying in bed at night like, what was that thing I said 12 years ago in 8th grade? You know what I mean? Or whatever of the dumb experience you have. Because I don't know about you, but I lay in bed sometimes and you have those weird thoughts of remember that dumb thing you said 10 years ago and then you can't sleep. So for me, it's just laughing at yourself and being able to be like, I'm new. Yes, I did the dumb thing that beginners do.
I think that's so important, but without having it be a crutch and continuing to laugh it off, but maybe using beginner less and less as you continue to not being a beginner.
Right. And it becomes less of it's not I'm laughing because I'm just like rolling with it and I'm so dumb. It's I'm laughing because I'm enjoying the fact that I'm learning, moving into something more serious, not slipping on ice, but maybe making a mistake at work or in life. If you can laugh at those mistakes, you can see it through a positive light. And if it's a positive light, it's just something to learn from and to grow and make you better. Whereas on the other side, if you're not laughing at it and you're trying to hide it, then it's a negative and you don't want to look at it, which means you're not going to learn from that mistake you made.
Totally.
So that would be the last little thing I would say toward beginners.
I love that. Very good.
Yeah.
I think that just should be the whole episode right there.
Oh my
just
gosh.
learn to laugh at yourself. And yeah, it's totally okay to be a beginner and it's great to be an expert too. But just remember how fun it is to be a beginner.
It is fun.
It's really fun. I personally love learning new things. I'm not like Derek where I can read 19 books at a time. I mean, I'm reading 5 at a time right now, but I'm not the lifelong learner like Derek is, but beginners, it's not just that you're bad at something or you're inexperienced. You are able to learn and learn maybe more in a different way than the people who are teaching you were able to. Just take it as an opportunity to be better and to grow more than you ever could without being able to be open to the opportunity. That's something I've learned huge is the people who teach me are usually the people who learned it and wanted to change and perfect and improve the way that they were taught. So it just keeps getting better and better every time it gets taught. So just be an awesome, spongy beginner and enjoy life and find the bliss in the beginning.
Yeah, for sure. It's all about movement. You're either clinging to the top of the mountain or you're stuck in the valley of despair, or you're actually putting in the work and effort to walk and climb up that slope of enlightenment, right? And I like how that you can relate that to the physical, that it's, if you do nothing, you're going to slide down the slope back into the despair, right? Into the I know nothing because I lost what I was learning because I stopped trying. So just remember that, guys. You got to don't get stuck. Just keep moving forward. That's all we have for today. So thank you so much for tuning in, guys. Hope you learned something. That's what we're here for. Just if one person out there listens to this and gets something from it and is able to go and change their life with it, then we've done what we want to do. So did you have any last words you want to say before we wrap up?
No, just thanks so much, you guys, for listening. Make sure to rate, review, and subscribe. Tell a friend. Make sure to connect with us on as Wealthy Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We also have an email, but just get connected with us. Derek was great and set up all the rest of our social platforms. You can find me, Hannah, at Health by Hannah, and that will connect you to all my other platforms as well. Mm-hmm. How about you, Derek?
just at Derek Spawn on Twitter and Instagram, and of course Facebook, but I'm not really on Facebook. But yeah, just at Derek Spawn, DerekSpohn.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. We so appreciate you listening to episode 11 with us. Keep listening, and we hope you have a great rest of your week. Stay wealthy. Bye, guys.